Hello. Hello, testing. Is this thing on? Can you hear me, chat? Sound off in the chat. What is up? Word up, fellow youths. There's a bit of an echo. There's a bit of an echo, apparently. Okay. Great, wonderful start. Wonderful start. Some kind of an audio echoing situation. Our wonderful producer, Nahum, is going to be on that. But hello and welcome, everyone. Hello and welcome. Actually, it sounds like there are two of you. Why is this? This is just following me around. This is just following me around everywhere I go to do this stuff. It sounds like we're hearing someone else's mic. Oh boy. I'm going to give a listen to this. Mike, you might have a live mic there. So you want to go into OBS and ensure that the only audio is coming from your computer, because I can hear like a typing sound. You're muted in Zoom, but you're not muted in OBS, would be my guess. Okay, that sounds better. There we go. Hey. Okay, perfect. Brief little troubleshooting moment. No problem at all. Oh, hey, Nahum, another thing. Everyone give it up for our wonderful producer, Nahum. He's going to be here with us all day. Nahum, one thing I didn't go over with you ahead of time is that we want to get the chat on the screen. So you want to go into OBS. Sorry, I'm just doing some live troubleshooting with Nahum. You want to go into OBS, Nahum, and insert another widget on the right side of the screen there for the chat box, so we can see the chat on the screen ideally. It's live broadcasting, folks. Live broadcasting. There's a whole lot of moving parts. There is a whole lot of moving parts to this stream today. But welcome. I want to say thank you to everyone for joining us. Welcome to the stream. It is the first ever Harbinger Media Network telethon. Really excited to be here. It's been a really incredible experience so far to be a part of this amazing collective of different creators as part of the Harbinger Media Network. Could not be more thrilled with the work we've done over the last year to kind of try to connect together the disparate independent projects that are going on here in left media in Canada. Really, really exciting. We're here today to first provide you with 12 straight hours of incredible, unbeatable content. It's going to be really great broadcast today. I hope you're all going to stick around as much as possible. We are also trying to raise a little money for the network. We got to pay for hosting costs. It is, it takes work to put all this stuff together. That's why we thought it would be a good opportunity to do this today. If you want to donate, there is a panel in the About page. This is on my Twitch channel, but we're hijacking it for the day. Also, if you want to hit the donate command in the chat, as I just did, !donate will give you the link to donate to the network. Again, this network is it's a really incredible thing. It's a really amazing group of people that are behind the scenes on this. It is 100% listener supported. It got zero corporate backing, zero dark money funding. So we rely entirely on these kinds of donations from listeners. So throughout the day, if you can, please, you got to give, right? We all saw that. We all saw that episode of We Think You Should Leave. Hilarious. But you do got to give. If you enjoy this stuff, you do have to, unfortunately. But again, the purpose of today, we want to try to raise some money for the network, but also we want to just put on a really cool event. We wanted to all work together on something special. We wanted to get the whole community together involved in a kind of a collective project. And again, it's going to be an incredible day of content. We've got so many different guests, so many different things going on. A lot of like really, really great content creators and activists and educators, media people joining the stream today. It's going to be really, really cool. So I'm really happy that you're all here with me. To kick things off, I'm Rob Rousseau, by the way. You probably know me. It's my channel. This is literally my channel. We're just hijacking it for today. But a lot of great stuff planned. This is just in the top of this stream. I'm going to be here from until 2 p.m. In a couple of minutes, I'm going to be talking to Professor Jessica Green, who is a professor at U of T. She teaches the science of climate change, the politics of climate change. She's a board member of Harbinger Media Network. Yeah, that's right. It's a really serious thing. We got a board member, and Jessica's a board member of the network. Just an expert when it comes to climate policy. I don't know if you know this, but we got an election going on. We got an election coming up in a couple days, and climate has played a big role in that. And obviously, it's an issue that we're all passionate about. So that's why it's going to be great to bring on Jessica to talk about all these climate policies that are getting bandied around. And I see she's joined us now. She's already joined us here on the stream. So, Jessica.
Hey, what's up, Rob?
Hey, not much. We're doing the telethon. Isn't this exciting?
This is very exciting. I'm totally excited.
Yeah, it's great.
Thanks for doing it, man. Thanks for running the show.
Of course. I mean, I appreciate the support that we've gotten from you, the network, and you've appeared on my podcast a couple times. I know you're really passionate about being part of this new independent media scene we're kind of trying to build here in this country. Obviously, it's needed when you look at our media landscape. It's obviously needed. So I'm really happy that you're involved with this. It's really cool.
Yeah, well, I am too. It's really nice to get out of the university and into the real world.
Yeah,
the real world of Twitch stream and podcasts. That
exactly. Yeah, and this is your Twitch debut, isn't it?
This is my Twitch debut. Turns out it's very exciting. A lot like Zoom.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's the thing. It was intimidating for me to get involved with as well. As I'm very young, but I was still I'm not old. But I was still, it was very intimidating getting involved in this platform because, there's a whole lot of weird ins and outs and stuff. So it's been a very interesting year for me trying to figure this out, trying to figure out this whole platform. So
yeah, it's been quite an adventure. Well.
Yeah, it's going okay. In any case, what are we here for today? It's the Harbinger Media Network. It's our first annual telethon. This is hour one. We're going to be going all day. We're going to be going all day with Canadian independent media, left media content. Very exciting. You want to just introduce? I gave you a little brief introduction, but you want to just say hi to the chat and introduce yourself and let you know how you got on board with all this?
Hey, I don't know who's out there, but I'm Jessica. I'm a professor at U of T in political science and School of Environment. I'm American. I'm new to Canada, but I'm very happy to be here. I came here in 2018 from New York City, and I study climate change and the politics of climate change and carbon pricing and carbon markets and kind of just the political economy of how do we get from a fossil fuel based economy to a decarbonized economy, and specifically what is in our way, why can't we do that? So that's what I think about in the academy, but I also I'm a recovering lib.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And so I'm really
it's taken excited. Us all. We've all been on a meandering journey to get here, right? I think some of us like to pretend that we came out of the womb as the exact perfect kind of communist, but
Right.
we all we're on a journey to get here, right?
Right. So it's important to, it's like, hello, my name is Jessica and I'm a recovering lid. And
Exactly, it's our support meeting.
exactly. So yeah, so I got, I got in contact with you when I got here, and then, I started to learn more about the sort of left media world here in Canada. And Andre Goulet, who runs the Harbinger shop, asked me to be on the board, and I was really excited because it's a way to kind of help build a community here and provide really important sort of alternative voices to the mainstream discourse. I mean, I just found that like that was the big problem for me, is that I would just read the Guardian and the New York Times, and it was like, okay, well, that's what's going on. But then I started to do things like read the Intercept and the Narwhal, and listen to some podcasts, and I was like, oh shit, actually there's a lot of other stuff going on. This is not necessarily the only version of the facts.
Well, it's a really huge thrill to have you on board with this project. It's really exciting. Jessica, we got an election coming up. I don't know if you know about this. We do have an election coming up. So it's been you came here in 2018, but Justin Trudeau now has been in charge of the government in this country. The Liberal Party has been in charge since 2015 now. Obviously, when they were campaigning, when they were getting elected in the first place, climate was a centerpiece of the conversation then, much as it is now. Justin Trudeau, as we know, has said a lot about how important this issue is. He's marched in the marches and stuff. So 6 years into this Trudeau experiment, how would you rate their actual actions when it comes to addressing this issue, and not so much the words that they use, but the actual actions that they've committed to?
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe fuck all is like a slight overstatement, but not that much, right? Because, Canada, who was it? There was some other podcast that I listened to, and I can't remember, but this is not my quote, but Canada has been described as 3 oil companies in a trench coat.
Yeah.
And
there's also mining companies as well.
Mining companies, and timber as well.
Yeah.
But, the Liberal Party has refused to reckon with that, right? And so, so there have been a lot of promises. There have been some policies put in place at the margins, the Pan-Canadian framework, which is the kind of big policy umbrella for all of the things that we said that we're going to do to meet our Paris pledge. So the Paris Agreement in 2015, all the countries got together and said, okay, now we really have to do something about climate change.
We're really serious this time.
Yeah, we're really serious this time. No playing around. And so Canada's pledge was to, comes in the form of the Pan-Canadian framework, and it's reducing emissions 40% by 2030. And we are very far from that. So there have been, a lot of different policies put in place, but we haven't dealt with things like the tar sands. And basically, the fact that 2 of our 2 provinces are, super dependent on the fossil fuel economy. And also we've continued to invest in the fossil fuel economy. So we have a long way to go. And Canada is just like, we haven't really made a dent in decoupling. We haven't, so economic growth is still largely coupled to fossil fuel combustion. Our per capita emissions are insane. We're very far cry from where we need to be.
Yeah. And what was very strange, by the way, I hear your call. I've noticed in the chat, people are saying the widget is not updating, the donation widget, which obviously hopefully we can fix soon. But there's, as I said, chat, there's a lot of moving parts to this broadcast. We're going to figure out this out. We've got 12 hours to go. We are going to figure all this stuff out. But I wanted to talk about the debate the other day, because we can talk endlessly about Trudeau's record on this, which is not good. Like, everyone can admit that it's not good. But it was so bizarre watching this debate the other day and having Trudeau basically just saying, like, no, actually it's been really good, and actually we're reducing emissions, and the scientists are all saying that our plan is better than every other plan, and just like this bald-faced lying and misrepresentation of what has actually happened. It's really strange, isn't it? Like, it's such a we can all look at the record. We can look at the rising emissions. We can look at even the basic things like you promised, like planting trees. We were joking around about this on Twitter the other day,
right.
Which hasn't happened, you don't need some big political will to do this, but none of this has happened. The emissions are just shooting up. So is he just lying? Is he just lying through his teeth, or what is going on here?
Yeah. So I didn't watch the debate because I can't because as an American, I still have PTSD from watching debates.
Yes.
Now.
I wouldn't have watched it if I didn't have to watch it like for work stuff because it was painful to watch. I gotta admit.
I think that's like a lot of it is just it's just branding, right? I mean, that's his like MO is like the brand of Trudeau is like, you know, nice guy, handsome, a little bit playful, like you can trust me, you know. And so I think it's part branding and it's part like there are a lot of people, and you know, I've kind of interacted with these people both in the academy and in the policy world who honestly believe that climate change is a technical problem, right? And so if we just like do like tailpipes and like building standards and like, you know, plant some trees and stuff like that, you know, we can address this problem. And I think that belief is very pervasive, as opposed to saying that climate change is really a problem about justice, wealth inequality, work, and, you know, sort of class exploitation, right? And so if you believe the former model, I think you can sell to yourself and to others the idea like, oh yeah, we are making some progress, you know, we're doing these things at the margins, but they don't get to the root of the problem. And that's the issue.
Well, that's the thing, that watching this debate and watching this whole election process play out has just made me feel like I'm losing it. Because it's like, we can talk about retrofitting homes. We can talk about, you know, public transit and, you know, electric vehicles and all this stuff. Sure. I mean, it's not like these things are completely not worth talking about, but the issue is that like we should have been having this conversation in the fucking 1990s.
Yeah.
Like they were decades too late. We're still debating things that should have been a no-brainer solution decades ago, and we're far beyond in terms of like mitigating the potential crisis that we're heading into right now. In terms of mitigating that, we're so far beyond these like patchwork band-aids that we're still talking about in our debates. Like we have Justin Trudeau saying we're going to hit these emissions targets by 2030. That's in 8 years. Like we're heading into 2022 right now. That's not far away. That's not some distant point in the future.
Yeah.
This would make me feel completely crazy when I watch these debates play out, both in Canada and the United States, because it's a lot of the same stuff.
Yeah. I mean, there is a lot of like auto gaslighting. You know, it's like, oh yeah, we're going to do like net zero, right? Net zero has become like this mantra.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? I mean, it is in the Paris Agreement. Like basically the commitment is that will be like the world will be net zero by 2050. But what that has turned into is this extremely complex shell game of like carbon accounting. And so I think you can, for some people, you can have that parallel dialogue and be like, oh yeah, we're doing this. But, you know, the buck has to stop somewhere. And it becomes, as you said, like if we had started actually tackling this problem in earnest 30 years ago, it would have been a lot less expensive for a variety of reasons. And now it's, you know, a lot more expensive because the speed at which we're supposed to, you know, undertake this transition. And also the fact that climate change is here, right? We're having, I mean, this summer was the absolute shit show. Like the whole fucking world was on fire.
Yes.
You know?
Yes, it was.
And everyone's like, well, it's going to be too expensive. Like we can't have a carbon price and blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, actually, I mean, what are you comparing that to? You know, like the town of Lytton has been completely destroyed, right? So that's pretty expensive too. And that's going to keep happening.
Yes. Yeah. I think that's the weird thing too. Like a lot of, you know, talk about like carbon pricing and this kind of stuff. This has been a sort of centerpiece of the neoliberal approach to climate change, advocated for by economists like that guy, Mark Jacquard, who the Liberal Party are holding up as some like incontrovertible scientific evidence that things are good. But it's this like very neoliberal market-based idea. And we've had 5 years of these discussions. We've seen like reactionary conservative movements talk about carbon pricing like it's some like form of communism. Like there's so they it's provided this thing that they can demagogue against. They can't even get on. These are like conservative solutions. These are conservative market-based solutions, which are in and of themselves adequate. But we spent the last 5 years having this protracted argument about carbon pricing, which has allowed, they've organized around this. They've organized around like demagoguing against this. Meanwhile, it hasn't even changed really our emissions. Our emissions have still continued to rise this whole time. So you've got to wonder at one point, like when people are going to accept that this approach, this market-based approach, is not really going to be enough ever to actually address the seriousness of the crisis.
Well, it's interesting. So I write a lot about carbon pricing. It's interesting because when it first was floated as an idea, everyone was like, yes, this is what we have to do. And then it became clear for political reasons that you could never have a carbon price at the level that you would need it to actually really make meaningful change. So then, all the carbon pricing schemes got sort of watered down, and there's loopholes and the prices are lower. Like the average price for carbon around the world, carbon is now priced in almost 25% of global emissions are priced under a carbon scheme, and the average price is less than $5 a ton, which is like a fucking joke. It's like a latte,
Yeah.
So there was just this huge, like, this is the silver bullet, and then it's like, okay, it's not the silver bullet. Now everyone's like, oh, well, we never said that it would just be carbon pricing. Like, we have to use that in concert with all of these other things. And it's, I think that speaks to your previous point about like, oh yeah, electric cars and, expanded public transit and building standards, like those are all good things. But this is, not only is this not going to fix the problem, it pisses off a lot of people. And it provides a rallying point for conservatives and, others to either, rile up opposition or co-opt the policy, right? It's like, now that Exxon supports a carbon price, you can be damn sure that it's not an effective policy.
Yeah, and now we're seeing like the Conservative Party in their kind of triangulation trying to appear more moderate. Now they're claiming that they support climate policies because now they're kind of slowly getting on board with this idea. And as you pointed out, if Exxon supports it, then it's probably a good indication that it's not the right way of doing things.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think actually the conservatives have they've hit on something better than the liberals have, which is like, okay, we really need to connect this idea of climate with the bottom line for you, right? Like, we really need to connect this with jobs and the economy in a way that I think the liberals haven't. They're just like, oh, well, we're going to spread this cost around to all consumers by putting, having a carbon price, as opposed to saying, like, we understand that this is really going to affect your livelihood and we have to do something about that.
Yeah. And another thing that seems to be happening too is, so there's kind of a two-step here, a sleight of hand that's happening when it comes to carbon emissions, where since the 90s, we have offloaded a ton of our manufacturing industry to the third world, to places like China, India, Latin America, all over the third world, right? We've offloaded these industries. And then we're kind of using that to pat ourselves on the back for reducing emissions while simultaneously scolding places like China and India. We're going to go saying, look at China and India and how much they're polluting, while they're making all the cheap products which our whole economy relies on, right? That's been a central part of our sort of neoliberal climate approach.
100%, right? And I think, I don't know the exact figure, but I think it's like basically 15 to 20% of Chinese emissions are basically produced for export. So it's not like it's to service the global economy, right? Then we go around doing all this like China blaming, which is insane. So Europe now wants to, or is planning to, implement what's called a border adjustment mechanism. And basically it's saying, when Europe imports things from countries where there's no carbon price, you have to levy a fee to make sure that the price is basically, the price of the good is as if there were a carbon price in the other place. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So that would mean that like cheap Chinese, exports are going to become more expensive, and that is going to be a big change if and when it actually happens. I mean, Europe has passed, or the EU has passed this bill. They don't know how they're going to implement it, but that's going to spark a huge trade conflict for precisely this reason, right? We can't go around sort of blaming China anymore, and China's like, well, you wanted our stuff and now you're taxing it, so what,
Yeah.
strap in. Carbon pricing is not over. It's just going to get more complicated.
No, absolutely. So I just getting into the rest of this election discourse. I mean, what can we even say about the Green Party? It seems like this should be the Green Party's time to show that they're really serious about this stuff, and it seems like they avoid talking about this at every step, right?
Yeah. So I don't know the insider scoop, but certainly what is coming through in the mainstream media is bad. Like, yeah. Paul has gotten terrible press. It's not clear to me, like, who's actually guilty, right? Or if she's, if she's really as incompetent as some people claim, or this is like, infighting, or.
Well, it seems like a bit of both. I think, like, she's definitely being sabotaged from within the party. There doesn't seem to be any way of denying that,
Right. And so what it looks like from the outside, it's just like not good, right? It just looks really like sloppy and, unprofessional, and, it obscures their policy messages, which should be, I think, at the forefront, right? This should be their, they should like run the tables on this, but they're not. And I think that, and I think they're lacking some detail in some of their policy stuff. I mean, they have obviously more ambitious targets and proposals, but how you actually get there is not entirely clear in their platform. So that, plus the fact that there's all this sort of infighting, has just meant like there's really not a lot of there. And I think they could really make more of the kind of just transition stuff, and they could work with it. Like, if the Greens and the NDP got their shit together and like really actually focused on what a just transition means, of like, how do we provide and expand the social safety net, like the debate about childcare, right? That's actually a debate about climate change, because it's about expanding a low carbon part of the economy, right? And supporting that, and like everybody's behind. It seems like everybody's pretty much behind that, right? There's some squabbles about how it's actually going to get done, but like if the NDP and the Greens could get together and say, we're the party of like prescription drug benefits and expanded childcare, fixing the long-term healthcare, the elder care system, which is an absolute disaster, right? All of those are actually very green policies. Yeah. And, they're not getting the airtime that they need. Yeah.
Well, that's part of the whole Green New Deal framework, right? Is that it's like, not only do we want to have serious solutions to this serious crisis, we want to actually try to improve people's standard of living in the meantime, and make it into something that's positive for everybody, that everyone benefits from. And that's the thing. I think that's the frustrating thing for me, because you see the NDP should be also like the logical choice to pick up this mantle and be really advocating for really radical policies to combat this. And I think their climate plan there's some good stuff in it, like we talked about. I don't want to just like completely shit on it. At the same time, it does feel like a bit of a missed opportunity the last 5 years, when we have this clear, terrible record for Trudeau. We have there's a whole generation of people that are really passionate about this, that really want to see that kind of radical change. I feel like there's been a huge opportunity over the last 5 years to show young people, especially, that they can be the party that they can take seriously about this stuff. And we're heading into this election 6 years into the Trudeau project, and it just seems like they haven't been able to make this case to people. And I can't see that as anything else but just a huge missed opportunity.
Yeah, well, I mean, a missed opportunity suggests that they're not smart enough to figure out that messaging, which I think is probably partially true, but also there are huge structural interests in place to keep the Liberal Party in the center and not really seriously regulating the fossil fuel industry. Yeah. So that's not a missed opportunity. That's a conscious choice, right?
Yeah, and it's like you saw Jagmeet Singh at the last debate get asked repeatedly whether he's going to cancel these pipeline projects, and he just can't do it. He just can't give a straight answer to it. And it's just, to me, Like, it's 2021. We're dealing with this level of crisis. It should just be a no-brainer. Fucking Joe Biden is to the left of Jagmeet Singh on this. That's just unacceptable.
That was a bad look.
Yeah,
really
it was
bad look. Yeah, and just say, look, we're going to take that money, that like trillions of dollars, and we're going to spend it on people, right? I mean, I think one of the things from where I sit, which again, as an American, like one of the reasons that Trudeau isn't doing as badly as he could be is because the government really showed up with CERB and EI during COVID. And it's like, well, you should learn something from that, right? People want a safety net. They want to not live in precarity all the time. And message around that, craft your policies around that.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. So it's been a depressing election season.
It's kind of a dumb election. I mean,
it's so stupid. I hate that we're doing this. It's annoying. But it has been a great opportunity to get this sort of media collective that we've been working on in this country to kind of like get it in gear and start having these conversations and start trying to provide a counter programming to what our mainstream media is doing, which is what we're doing here today. And I'm really happy that you're part of it, Jessica. It's really cool that you're part of this whole project. It's the most important election of our lives. Exactly. Oh my goodness. But I just wanted to thank you once again for being involved with the Harbinger Media Network and for appearing on the stream today. It's been really cool to talk to you about this stuff.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure to talk to you, Rob. And hopefully the next time it'll be on your 49th Para Hell Twitch stream.
Yes. Well, this is technically my own channel, but it's getting hijacked today.
Oh, you're lending it out?
Yeah, I'm lending it out. That's right.
Well, thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
And thank you for sitting there for 12 hours or maybe not.
Oh, I'm not sitting here for 12 hours. Don't worry about that. That's our wonderful producer, Nahum, who's doing that.
Okay.
I'm the talent. Okay. You think I'm going to be sitting here 12 hours? I have other stuff to do. All right.
All right.
Thanks,
well,
Jessica.
Thanks, Rob.
Yeah. I'll
Good to talk to you. Bye.
Okay. Thanks so much to Jessica. Always a huge pleasure to talk to Jessica. So everybody, as I wanted to remind you, we're trying to raise money to support the network. Obviously, I believe our widget at the bottom does not seem to be working yet. It does not seem to be working. I noticed that we have got some donations. We're going to work on making sure that gets that works throughout the day. I did just want to say, give a huge thank you to our donors so far: Adam Boyce, Craig Shepard, aka, well, I don't know if I want to dox Craig, Kiefer Furtak, Grayson Berkeley, a couple of really generous donations so far on PayPal. We're going to try and get that widget working eventually. Once again, if you do want to donate, there's a panel. You can do so on the About page on this channel. You can also hit the exclamation point donate command in the chat to get the link. We will try to get the actual widget working properly so we can monitor that in real time. In the meantime, I will have to just be doing it the manual way, analog. We're going analog. But again, please, Harbinger Media Network, 100% supported by listeners. We got no corporate funding, no big dark money donors. It's an amazing project to be a part of. I think it's a really incredible thing. But we got to rely entirely on generous donations from listeners. So that's how you donate. You donate using the command in the chat or on the donate panel. We will eventually figure out how to actually show the donations on the screen. Eventually, we are going to figure this out. We got 12 hours to figure this out. We're going to do it. I have confidence. So that was great to speak to Jessica. Rob just used an exclamation point. Was that a copy paste job out of some notepad somewhere? That's exactly right. That's exactly right. It was a copy and paste. For regular viewers of this channel will know, both my shift keys have been malfunctioning now for multiple weeks. For some reason, instead of taking the simple solution of just purchasing a new keyboard, I just have yet to do this. So if I want to make an exclamation point or a question mark or a hashtag, I have to Google search the punctuation and then copy and paste it. It's really not ideal. Yes, Jessica Green does have a Twitter, Pepto State. Lodane just posted it in the chat a couple times, but if you want me to repeat it, it's twitter.com/greenprofgreen. She's my go-to. She's my go-to climate expert. Whenever I want to talk about climate policy, Jessica's the absolute best person to speak to about all this stuff. So I was very happy to have her come on the stream today. I'm very happy to have her part of the board of the Harbinger Media Network. It's really, really cool. So coming up next, we do have managing editor from The Breach, Martin Lukacs. He's going to be joining us for a little bit. And again, on election night, on Monday, I am going to be hosting election coverage with The Breach, starting at 8 p.m. on Monday on The Breach's YouTube channel. Martin's an editor at The Breach, and a writer, also author of the book, The Trudeau Formula. He is going to be joining us in like 10 minutes to talk to Martin. Always great to reconnect with him. Then after I speak with Martin, I'm going to be talking to the boys of Off Court Pod. It was another Harbinger Media Network podcast. They do amazing work talking about sports and socialism and when these things intersect. That's going to be fun. That's what's going on in my block. Is this the Celebrate Trudeau stream? Yes, it is. It is the Celebrate Trudeau stream. That's exactly what it is. So, Chad, how do we feel so far? How many of you are going to be here for the entire 12 hours? We're all getting Trudeau tattoos. That's right. Celebratory Trudeau tattoos. Just pure sock tattoos. You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Sports and socialism calls Gaddafi.
My son as well, which was not planned. What are you doing? But you're not even wearing a shirt.
Daddy.
What are you doing?
Daddy.
What is it?
Wait, Dad. Why? Wait, did the bad guy of Coco give Miguel's grandfather a special poisonous water and it poisoned his stomach?
That's right. Yeah, he poisoned him. Very, very mean. Ernesto de la Cruz.
But they were friends. But he wasn't a bad guy first.
Yeah, well, I guess he was a bad guy, but he was kind of pretending not to be. And you're getting spoilers now. We're spoiling key plot points from the movie Coco, which you were just watching. Okay, can you go back? You want to say goodbye?
Goodbye. But Dad,
can you
gonna watch YouTube again.
Go upstairs and talk to Mama. Okay, Mama will tell you. Okay, bye. And you got to close the door and you go upstairs. Okay. Sorry, everybody. Anything can happen in live broadcasting. Anything can happen in live broadcasting, folks. Okay. So that was my son. He was just watching Coco, and I guess he was confused about the actions of the Coco character Ernesto de la Cruz. Good movie. Good movie. I noticed that Sebs resubscribed for 1 month to tier 1. Thank you, Sebs. Calls Gaddafi. I mean, I can ask the sports pod, the off-court pod boys about Gaddafi. I'm sure they have plenty to say about it. Although I will ask everyone who's a regular viewer of this channel, if you can, to avoid today. Let's just pretend this is not my channel at all today. Avoid today subscribing. You know, normally I harass you about subs and bits and things like this, friend coin and all the stuff that we talk about here. Try to avoid the subscriptions for today, because there's a whole other people that are involved in this channel, and we're trying to focus our fundraising efforts on the Harbinger Media Network, which you can don't unsubscribe. Definitely don't do that. Let's not get crazy. Let's not get crazy here. Okay. Don't unsubscribe. But if you do feel like you enjoy the content today and you want to donate, you can do so by hitting the ! donate command in the chat, or finding the donate panel on the page. Dealing with chat is like herding cats. It's like herding chats. As you know, I'm an expert of this, though. Oh, and arguably, Arugula, I did notice that you subscribed with Prime. Thank you very much. I do appreciate it. I don't want to say don't. I appreciate the Prime sub, arguably Arugula, and I will be back on this channel on Tuesday for a post-election breakdown. But remember, today is all about the Harbinger Media Network, and we're trying to raise funds for the network to keep the network going. I'm doing it because you told me not to unsub, and no one can tell me what to do. Okay. Oh man. You said no one was going to tell you what to do, and then I was going to command you to not subscribe, and then that would be used against me as further ammunition. Oh my goodness, now I've started an unsubscribing movement to my own channel. Turns out I have a lot to learn about this whole platform. Cease the means of subscription. Yes, absolutely. Just going to check these subscriptions. We're going to manually look at those. Okay. So in like 5 minutes, we got Martin Lukacs joining us. So chat, how are you handling this so far? What do you think? Only true fans of the Harbinger Media Network are going to be here for the entire day, the entire 12-hour experience. Do I mark financial reasons, or streamer was mean to me when I unsub? Now this has just gotten way off the rails here. This has gotten way off the rails. My goodness. And look at Jessica Green is in the chat already. She's already a Twitch pro. She's already a Twitch pro using the chat. Look at that. That was a great conversation with Jessica Green. Always really enjoy speaking with her. So who's ready for this election? We're all excited, right? We're all excited by this election. Who's pumped? Sound off in the chat if you're pumped about the coming Canadian election. I know I am. I'm just thrilled. I'm thrilled to be a part of it. Yes, Lodane. Follow Lodane's advice. Jessica, tell your students you had a Poggers time on Twitch today, and all the Zoomers will immediately support and respect you. Nothing gets me going more than electoralism. Me too. Absolutely. Dakadoon's pumped as an American. Wonderful. And by the way, I just want to also shout out Lodane. Lodane is a mod on my channel who works really hard to keep this community running. She's going to be helping out throughout the day, which I really appreciate. We've also got a mod, Kellying Spree, as well, who's one of my colleague Jordan's mods, who should be showing up as well to help out. Please give it up for Lodane, though. Lodana does a lot of really great work keeping this community running. We really, really appreciate it. See, people are spamming the Lodana emotes in the chat, as they should. Just donated to Harbinger Torkel 110. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for donating. We're going to work on getting the widget working. It may have to be when I may have to, because I don't know if I can host the show and speak to guests and also troubleshoot the widget at the same time. So it might have to be when I leave. In the meantime, we have been getting some donations, which I do appreciate. It means a lot that people are supporting independent media. Jen Hassim just donated. Jen Hassim, thanks so much. Very, very generous. Thank you so much to everyone. And even people, we know that there's a million different things that people are asking, donating for, trying to get donors for. Even folks that are just here to hang out and interact with us, watch the stream, hang out in the chat. We really, really appreciate everyone that's going to stop by today. So Martin Lukacs should be joining us in just one moment. I have to do I'm doing so much commentary around this election. It's really amazing. I've done so many interviews about this. We should actually take a look at the, if you can, I'm going to actually get the Breach RSVP link here, which I can post in the chat.
Hey, Rob.
Oh, is Martin with us? Hold on, Martin, let me see if you're live. Martin, you're there?
I'm here.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, man. How about you?
Very good. Nahum, I think you just want to switch the scene there. We got to make sure our producers. Here we go. There we go. Very nice. Good to talk to you, Martin. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
I gave you a little bit of an introduction before you popped on, but you want to just say hello to the chat and introduce yourself?
Hey, folks. I'm Martin Lukacs. I'm an editor with The Breach and an investigative journalist and activist.
Yeah. Author of and I mentioned you're the author of the book, The Trudeau Formula. You literally did write the book on Justin Trudeau.
Well, there were two others who wrote books, but they're both shitty parliamentary hacks. Yeah. So the only lefty to take make the sacrifice for all of us and spend a year thinking about Justin.
That's right. But it's important that we have this perspective, right? And I guess since you're just some people may not be familiar with your work, why don't you just break down? You did a great video about this on the Breach YouTube page a few weeks ago. But why don't you can you give us a little breakdown of what the Trudeau Formula is and how Justin Trudeau has operated as PM over the last couple of years?
Sure. Well, the Trudeau Formula in many ways is like a modern adaptation of the Liberal formula. It involves essentially being all things to everyone, and basically, giving the broader population, certainly progressive Canadians, who I think make up the majority of the country, the sense that transformative change is on its way. And Justin, had that fresh-faced tantric yoga, progressive yuppie appeal to pull that off really well. But the key part of the formula is the quiet appeal that they make simultaneously to the corporate and political elite of the country. And to them, they say, don't worry, the furniture actually is not going to get shifted. All will be well. We'll take care fundamentally of your interests, while making it seem like we're going to shake up the status quo.
Yeah.
And so, corporate interests and the corporate basically prerogative to determine how this country is governed doesn't really get affected. And we've seen that in the last 6 years, whether we're talking about the weapons manufacturers or the big banks or pharma or certainly the oil barons in Alberta. Everything is more or less in terms of their privilege and power untouched. And we have some tinkering at the edges and sometimes even some bigger concessions that the Liberals are very good at offering, for instance, like childcare, though, we would need to re-elect them twice more to actually get $10 a day childcare. And so the Liberals generally in this country are really incredible at being these kinds of brokers, or as I brokers for the elite, or as I describe them, kind of like political shock absorbers. They're great at buffering the discontent and political anger and essentially channeling it into harmless political directions.
Yeah, and this is something you outlined in the book as well, right? Which is that, like, Trudeau was very clear when he spoke, like, behind closed doors to the sort of Bay Street crowd, the corporate crowd, talking about, like, there's people that are, they're clamoring for, like, they want to come and take your money, and they want to, there's all kinds of people that are clamoring for this kind of radical social change. You need me to absorb that, and you need me, like, I'm the one that's holding, between you and the groups with pitchforks, which is actually very similar to the pitch that Obama made to these very same people when he took over, right? Totally. So he was very clear to this corporate establishment that, there was a lot of anger about the elites, the 1%, and that he was there to absorb that and to ensure that, like, that didn't manifest into, like, any serious structural change, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think seeing the Obama endorsement a few days ago for Trudeau is very fitting, because Trudeau not only takes very closely from Obama. I mean, they adopted many of the tactics, the databases, the consultants from the Democratic Party, from the corporate wing of the Democratic Party. But Trudeau and Obama are very much part of this kind of neoliberal international, which, comes out of this third way, progressive neoliberal triangulation form of politics that I think actually the Canadians don't get enough credit for helping innovate. Like Jean Chrétien, in many ways, it was the original model for that kind of progressive neoliberal politician, from whom I think Bill Clinton and Tony Blair learned a lot. They used to have meetings regularly of this third way international, and Jean Chrétien was kind of like a elder statesman for this form of politics, which I think Obama really took to its, like, peak, and then in a kind of secondhand, like, sloppy seconds way, Justin, like, followed up with. So, yeah. But have you seen? I was just before I joined the call, I was catching up on Twitter, and I saw that Justin has yet again promised electoral reform. So we should.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
I didn't. It didn't seem like a promise from what I saw, but it did seem like, oh yeah, we'll take another look at that kind of thing. It's like, why would anyone believe that? I mean, that's the whole thing about this election that we keep talking about, right? Is that in 2015 he could kind of credibly make this claim. Like he definitely in the 2015 election got to the NDP's left on a number of issues, and did appear to be the sort of fresh-faced progressive in that race. But it's weird that, like, we're 6 years into this thing, we can look at his record and we can match his record up with this kind of promises that we made and this kind of vision that he was laying out there, and see that it doesn't really go together. Yet he's still kind of making this claim. He's still doing that same strategy, and it's incredible that there's still a constituency out there that's buying this.
Well, I think, I think that he still, to this day, 6 years on, gets such servile treatment, in uncritical treatment in the corporate and state media in this country, that actually, I think there are a lot of people in this country who still think he is a progressive, pragmatic political option. So yeah, we're seeing in this last, the last days of the last week of the election, them not only recycling a lot of promises like this one, but also working overtime to try to shore up their climate record, which I think you spoke. I missed the earlier broadcast, but I think you spoke about that. But like they have had all their top organic intellectuals out there working Twitter, the Gerald Butts, the Andrew Leaches, the Sandy Garasinos, trying to still make the claim that Trudeau's climate record is impeccable and the best out there, which is astonishing, but also effective when in the way that they do it. And they've been really effective at kind of coordinating this like organic intellectual pylon the last week, at getting the right what they call validator voices, writing the op-eds that then they're referencing. I mean, Trudeau himself, like, I don't know how many million followers he has, but he was tweeting out like a blog post from Andrew Leach, citing, this independent expert on climate. Andrew Leach is not an expert.
He's an economist.
He's an economist, not a climate expert, and he's certainly not independent. He's deeply invested in, neoliberal centrist politics and deeply invested in liberal governance in this country. And yet, at the same time, like Trudeau and the Liberals are wheeling him out as a validator voice. So it's on one hand it's quite desperate, but on the other hand it's still quite effective, because you see you see like the class of media class like amplifying this and being like, oh well, maybe Trudeau is our best bet for a climate a chance at combating the climate crisis. But honestly, like just go like rehearsing what the trajectory of the promise on electoral reform is, I think, a really interesting way of getting to the like absolute cynicism at the heart of liberal rule in this country. Because like it's worth going over, like back in 2015, how central that promise was to their progressive appeal. And like I remember someone did a count and they repeated the promise 1,813 times, like during that campaign. The last election under the first past the post was like one of his key slogans.
Yes.
But then the way they managed it, like over the next few years in Parliament, was fascinating. Like they held consultations, and then they refused to release the results of the consultations because they knew that they were in favor of proportional representation. And then when they were finally forced to release it, then they were like, well, we're going to do a second round of consultations, because the first round of consultations didn't go the way they wanted them to. And then they did this, like, I don't know if you remember, but they did this like pop psych survey for their second round, where they weren't directly asking people what system they wanted, what voting system they wanted. They asked them about their like values. So it actually generated no useful information. And then after basically like the people had voted the wrong way, they shifted tack and started basically adopting a right-wing line on proportional representation, which is that it's a dangerous, unstable system that would empower the far right, which is just not true at all. Like in proportional systems around the world, usually it's progressive parties who are empowered, and it's far more collaborative in terms of legislation. So, and then we come to 2019, and then they kept quiet about it for a few years. And now he's like, in the home stretch, he's bringing it back. You were right to say that, less as a direct promise and more as like, if reelected, we'll look at it again. But but the way the media is covering it, like the headline in the article was, let me just pull it up. Trudeau says he remains open to electoral reform if Liberals are reelected.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a golden headline, in this like key weekend. So they know what they're doing. That's for sure.
Yeah. And so certainly when we talk about, the ways that they've been able to, the Liberal Party in particular, and Justin Trudeau has managed to overcome this deficit when it comes to like their actual, promises versus what their actual actions has been. The sort of media establishment in this country has been, helping out with that project a lot over the last couple of years, and especially over the course of this election as well.
There's a deep synchronicity, I think, in especially the liberal wing of the media in this country. Like, I think for the reason that honeymoon was so prolonged initially was that I think many of the kind of establishment pundits and voices, they saw common cause in Trudeau and in the kind of national project that he had, like the burnishing of Canadian pride abroad. Like they